And what I realized, and what I think Green for All realized, and I think many of you who are our allies, is that we are now in a position of governing, which is a moment that every movement waits for. We are in a position of governing. And what we have to do is be bold enough to take the hope that Obama and people articulated and actually translate that into change. Right? We have to make hope change. And the only way we make hope change is if we can really figure out how to do it. And here's what I've learned about green jobs and why I came to green jobs. I came to green jobs because in the labor movement, we knew what was coming, which is GM. Right? The strategy we had were people who went to high school, who got training in an industrial workforce, is slowly dying in the industry. And Mark knows I still mean construction. I'll talk about that later, Mark, so I'm not throwing you under the pillow. But in fact, that just with GM, 31,000 people lost their jobs. And the real challenge is we don't make anything anymore in the United States, right? And we have to figure out how to make something again. And what I realized is I looked around and I realized that China was spending $12 million an hour. $12 million an hour to figure out green energy. India is spending millions of dollars. That whether you're an environmentalist or not, you either think the people who believe about green jobs are crazy, including China, India, Germany, and every other country in the world, or you think we've been afraid to be bold. We've been afraid to have solutions, and it's scary to think about new opportunity. And what I can tell you is I'm now confident that I was scared to think about the possibility of new opportunity, that I didn't believe that there could be a democratic economic revolution that was healthy and clean. I just didn't think it was possible, and I wasn't sure if I could participate in it. But here is why we cannot afford to not participate. I met with coal folks yesterday, and they're talking about what's happening in China around cap and trade. And what I have to tell you is I think China may end up being more bold than the United States. That China may take stronger protections for their environment than the United States. And not just because they care about pollution, but because they want the economy to thrive. And that is not okay. That's not the promise of this conference. That's not the promise of the community that we offer to be. We said we were the people of hope and solutions. And if we are the people of hope and solutions, then we have to translate that into employment and a quality environment. Because that is who we promised we would be. And what I want to tell you is that Green for All promises to try to be those people. That we promise to recognize that communities of color deserve to be part of this discussion. That we recognize when Waxman-Markey happens that the thing that is missing is not just a more comprehensive system, but the fact that communities of color have no access to the jobs that are being created. That they will be the first to suffer, the least likely to get access, the most likely to face pollution, and have no promise of opportunity from that bill. And I'm proud to announce today a partnership with the Building and Construction Trades Department. What we've committed to do with Congressman Bobby Rush's leadership is to say to Waxman and Markey and to the leadership of the House, we won't support a bill that doesn't offer opportunity for communities of colors. We can't support a bill that doesn't guarantee local hiring for communities that need it most, job standards, that the promise of a clean, green economy means that it is a clean, green economy that offers opportunity to communities that need it the most. And what I need from you is something that is a big ask, a huge, huge ask. I need you to be believers. I need you to not just be believers, but ministers in our movement. Because if we aren't, we can't make demands of it. It means if we're not ministers, we can't walk into the room and say, you know, this bill is happening, and we actually want to think about how to strengthen it. Because if we're not believers, we get to stand outside and say, let me just say this feels so much better at the end of the day. Every day I sometimes wish I got to go outside and just say, you suck. Because it's so much more fun to do that. It's so much more fun. But the reality is, our real challenge is to go inside and to say, we want to translate this hope into change. We want to make sure that this opportunity offers real jobs for people. It really enhances environmental quality and stops global warming. and that we will be able to make this happen. And so I'm thankful not just for the building trades leadership and others here, but really to think about how do we do those. And it happens not just at Capitol Hill, it happens in state legislation like in Washington. We just passed a bill 2 weeks ago, the governor signed it with partners like Apollo and others, that will guarantee 100,000 homes be weatherized over 5 years. The jobs will go to low-income communities that need them the most, and the homes that will first be served are in communities that are most likely to be populated and most likely to be polluted, which are communities of color. And that's who Green for All is, and that's what we're about. In cities, it's in places like Los Angeles where they've just signed a deal. Cecilia, who runs the redevelopment agency, they've just signed a deal for the first clean and green manufacturing for railway cars, and in fact set 20 acres aside to create new energy. I really want to end with something very, very serious, which is to say to you that I don't believe there's anything more urgent. And I spent the last 13 years being in the labor movement, working on health care, working on issues of people of color. But this is an issue of survival. This is an issue where we will measure ourselves and say, were we right? What's scary for me is I testified at appropriations, and a congressman from Kansas who said, you know, I don't believe in that whole global warming stuff, Phaedra. And I said, it must be nice. I wish I got to not believe. Because I don't know about you, but I know people who lived in Louisiana, and that whole Hurricane Katrina didn't work well for them. And it's okay if you can afford a yacht because you got out. But we wanted to not just have the yachts rise, but all the boats rise. And in order to figure out a strategy like that, we have to be able to believe in hope, and we have to make it translatable. Because there are communities that are suffering, and for kids like me, who grew up next to a Shell refinery, who have reduced lunch, we don't have a lot of people who stick up for us, who want to create opportunity for us. But what I know is our vision in this room for change. Our vision is one that includes kids like me. And I know if together we can translate that into real change, we are unstoppable. And so for us, it means signing up at Green for All, or signing up with other organizations to be able to say, we will make change real. It means having a voice on Waxman Markey. It means participating in state legislation. It means looking in your local communities to be able to make green jobs a reality. Because what the congressman from Kansas ended with me, he said, I don't know about global warming, but I know green jobs are coming, and I'm trying to figure out how to bring it to my state. And our team has to be the team that says, not only do we know it's coming and we believe, but we're going to make sure it's the highest environmental quality. We're going to make sure that communities that need it the most get it first. And we're going to make sure that the promise is delivered. And I want to tell you, on behalf of myself, on behalf of kids who don't often get a voice, on behalf of my 3 nieces who have a mom who's a drug addict and a dad who's a drug dealer, that absent of us all taking leadership, they won't survive. Thank you.